Welcome to episode 10 of The Business Lawyer Said. And in this week's episode, let me pull up my handy dandy notes. We are going to be talking about bad partnerships, bad relationships as it relates to business. Can you just go into business with everybody? No. And if you would like to know some tools and tips on what you can do to evaluate whether or not this is a good partnership for you, keep watching. So, if this is your first time, this is the Business Lawyer Said. It's a Q&A series where I answer your business law questions and give you some general advice. Of course, this cannot be treated as personalized legal advice, and I have to advise you to go out and get a lawyer in your area. Whew! Now that we got that out of the way, if you have a question that you want me to answer for one of the upcoming episodes, then please send me a DM. You can also email me at info@andersonlawfl.com. All of this information will be in the description somewhere below wherever you're watching this, okay? So let's get into this week's question. Again, how do I pick a good business partner? Now, I've kind of touched on this a little bit when I answered the question, should I go into business with my friends and family? But I wanted to flesh out a little bit more on some things and give you some practical questions to ask on whether or not you should actually go into partnership with someone. So when you go into partnership with someone for a business, you are equally sharing the work. You are equally sharing all the things as it relates to that business. It's sort of like a marriage. So if you are watching and you're unsure of this individual's actions, what they will do, what they won't do, one of the key things you should always do is pay attention to some of these questions I'm about to ask and ask, Lord. Pay attention to some of the questions that I'm about to share and ask them and ask yourself. So let's just get into it. So, how do I pick a good business partner? What things should I do first? Well, the first question you should ask is, would I trust this person with access to my personal information, such as my bank accounts, my social security number? Do I trust them with that? If you answer no to this, you should not go into partnership with this person. If this person cannot be trusted with your bank account information, don't trust it. Will they be able to share their bank account information with you? Has this person been known to overdraft their bank accounts? Has this person been known to have credit disputes, needing co-signers? These are all important things to ask and know when you're choosing a good partnership, okay? Now, question number 2 that you should ask on whether or not this person is a good business partner to go into business with is number 2 is, do I know this person's work ethic? And when I say that, you need to ask them, are you aware of how they work? Are you aware of their work style? Will you have to carry a lot of the weight? Do you know that you don't put in enough for the work of the product or the services too? I mean, these are some questions that you got to ask them, but also ask yourself, because if you're not willing to put in the work yourself, you certainly do not need to have a business partnership. And then that kind of leads me to the last question of, okay, well, Nacrosha, if I don't have this skill, what if they have that skill? So the last question that you should ask is, do I have the skill sets that complements or mirrors meaning theirs? Do I have the things that they lack? So, for instance, if you go into partnership with someone and they are more extroverted than you, then that could be a good asset. But if both of you are introverts, how are you going to market? How are you going to market your services? What does that look like? Or if you have better financial management skills and they don't, what type of systems and structures are you going to put in place to ensure that they still have knowledge of what's going on financially, but you be the one to make the decisions? Do you need 2 signers on your bank account before money can be drawn out? These are all questions and things that you should consider when you go into business and asking or considering whether or not you should have a business partner. What other things? Another thing that I wrote down is, will this person challenge me in good ways to make me grow or hold me back? So one of the things is, when you are seeking out a business partner, it's how can I put this? It's ultimately a marriage. And in marriage, you learn good things about people, and it also draws out some things that you probably didn't consider in the beginning of the relationship. So the same thing applies in business. When you go into business, it will draw out the good, it will draw out the bad. It will not always be butterflies and rainbows. So when you pick a business partner, you need to truly, truly evaluate whether or not this is someone you want to be around when the ship is going down, when the ship is taking on water. Answer these questions, because there are many people who have entered into business relationships with people, and that person has took all the money out the bank account. This person has committed the business to things that the business cannot actually handle. This person is doing side business deals that the other partnership didn't have anything about, didn't know anything about. So these are all the things that you need to consider when you go into business and you're going to have a business partner. So in this week's live, we have some activity, and it says you have to be able to have difficult conversations at the outset. It's important to make sure you and your business partner can cover the business as a whole. Most definitely. Most definitely. If you and your business partner can't have the bad conversations, this ain't a person you need to go into business with, because business, it ebbs and it flows. You have good days and bad days. And it's one of those things where it will always be growing and changing. It will never be the same. So some things that you may have done in the future, in the past, may not be some of the things that you do in the future. So these are all types of conversations that needs to be had. How frequently should you have these conversations? That's pretty much up to you and your business structure. But I definitely recommend at least some type of monthly meeting, bi-weekly meeting, taking detailed notes on who's doing what, and outline roles and responsibilities, because it's so important that you have a clear understanding of who is responsible for what. In any business, it's a relationship. It's sort of like a household. It related back to who's taking out the garbage, who's cleaning the toilets this week, who's sweeping the floors. These are all things that have to be considered when you're running a business. You need to consider who's going to manage the bank statements, who's going to be responsible for our tax reporting, who's going to be responsible for communicating with vendors, who can bind us in certain agreements, who can't. Again, something I said earlier in this live is, should we require two people to be able to sign to take money out of the account, or can one person actually be responsible enough to do it? Because I've seen, and I've had clients have come to me and said, oh, well, my business partner took the money out. My business partner did this. My business partner did that. Well, technically, if both of your names or all your names are on this account and there's no actual structure as to who is responsible, who has the authorization to do something, in the eyes of the law, they had the ability to do it. And yes, you can sue them under some other laws and things that we can consider to try to get the money back. But it's like a marriage. It's sort of like, take, for instance, a husband and a wife, or two partners, if you're male or female. If you have a spouse and your spouse gets upset and they take a certain dish set and they start smashing the dishes outside, and you call the police to try to say, hey, they didn't have authority, those are my dishes, blah, 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 blah. The police are going to say, hey, that's a marital asset. They could literally take everything out of that house and do all types of things to it. And there's really no recourse because it's a marital asset. Very similar structures apply in business. So let's just recap. What questions should you ask yourself when considering a business partner? Question number 1 was, would I trust this person with access to my personal information, bank account, social security information, my comings, my goings, my doings, my don'ts? Can you trust them? Number 2, do I know this person's work ethic? Do I have a conflict with their work style? Meaning I like to work in the mornings, they like to work at night. I prefer to do videos, they prefer to write things down. I prefer to have more forward facing if you're in a client industry, or that person prefers a little bit more behind the scenes, or that person too likes to be client facing and doesn't like the admin side. These are all things you need to consider when selecting a business partner. And the last question, of course, you need to ask yourself and maybe ask them is, do I have the skill sets that complements or mirrors theirs? Do I have the things that they lack? Do I work well with others? Do I not work well with others? Will this person challenge me in good ways to make me grow, or ultimately will they hold me back? So these are all questions that you need to consider. Again, like I said, picking a business partner is like picking a partner in a romantic relationship. Opposites kind of do need to attract, because you both can't be similar so much in a way that no work is getting done. And that I see that a lot. And then, of course, you have to ask some hard questions, and it may turn out that this may not be the best partnership to go into. And one of the things I was thinking about when I got this question was, you have to be like 50 Cent and ask 21 questions. It's like a date. You have to really figure out what it is you want to do, what are you looking for, and make sure your business goals are in alignment. Okay? So with that being said, I want to conclude this week's episode of The Business Lawyer Said. Be sure to submit your questions for future episodes. And if you found this content valuable, which I really hope you did, please be sure to share it with someone. I'm going to post a replay very quickly after this live is ended. And if you are watching and you have a question, you can go ahead and drop it in that question box or type it in the comment section, so that way I can log it for a future episode. And The Business Lawyer Said. So I'm going to wait a few more seconds to see if anybody has some questions. If not, then I'm going to close us out for this week's edition of The Business Lawyer Said. I believe this is episode 10. So go me for doing this 10 times in a row, 10 weeks in a row. That's a long time. Ooh, go me. Yay. Shout out to me for being consistent with The Business Lawyer Said. Again, well, thank you so much. I hope everybody is enjoying this content. Again, do me a favor. The best thing you can always do is share, so it can touch more people. I think this is so important because so many people are starting businesses and doing partnerships, but they are not considering some of the things that they need to ask before they agree to go into a partnership with people. And then they end up with heartbreak and upsetness and not making money. So there's that. All right. Thank you, everybody, for the compliments and support. I really, really appreciate it. As creatives, we definitely need that consistent feedback to keep going, to know that people are indeed watching and valuing the content. So I'm going to go ahead and close out this week's edition, episode 10 of The Business Lawyer Said. Please be sure to join me next week around noon for the next episode. Until then, hope everybody has a great week.